Hi there, I'm Sheila Maria and welcome to this little video which is called Your Earthly Soul Contract. I am a psychic medium. My work is a little bit different. I don't use any kind of tools. I work as a pure medium with my guides. And one of the most common questions that I get asked is, what is my soul purpose? And I've done numerous videos on this, and you may like to check out the 12 new life purposes that we were given, of which there are only 11. But anyway, so today I want to talk to you about how you can tell if you are actually on your right soul path, and how you already do this. So the first thing I'm going to say, things have changed. Our guides are only there to guide us along the path that we wrote ourselves before we came into physical form. So there is often a belief that your guides can tell you what's going to happen, what you're going to do, what you're going to decide, and that would take away the whole point of being here. Certainly my guides do not do that. They will only advise me on what to consider or what to think about, or on what the consequences of any decision may be. So you did make a pre-life plan with your team, a very in-depth one, which allowed for many different choices to be made. And the fun of it is that when part of you came into your physical body, the amnesia is there so that you get to feel as though you're creating what you've already designed. So the guides really are here to nudge you into what you felt your highest path would be. So there is really no right or wrong decision that you can ever make. But if there is a decision that if you took it on earth that would go completely against what you wrote in your soul plan, that's when your guides will step in. So I'm going to give you some examples of that now. So some of you that are in complex emotional situations will know that if your relationship hits a certain point, if a certain behaviour is seen or known by your spouse, and you will sense it as you come up to it, that if they do that, if that happens, you know you would have to walk away. Okay, the reason that you know that is that you planned to be empowered. And what happens if you come up to that point and, you know, the worst case scenario happens and the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the husband or the wife or the lover does act in a way that goes against what you plan for yourself? It's very normal to be in a complete state about that, because there's part of you that really doesn't want to leave, but you know that you have to because that is what you planned. Okay, so changing the area now. When you've been in a job for an amount of time and you suddenly know you can't do it anymore, not from a place of desperation and not from a place of tiredness, but you just know you're supposed to change, and you have an idea of what it is you're supposed to do, which may be nothing to do with what you've spent your working life doing. And I see this quite a lot. And you know, the difference between what the person wants to go and do and what they've done is usually completely different. So you might get somebody that's worked within the corporate world wanting to go and run a holistic business, and they couldn't be further from each other. And that's because as we get further into our lifetime, we become more like our true self and our priorities naturally change. So there are points upon our path that we designed for that change to be evident within us, and then we feel it on the outside. Okay, so another interesting one is something called living location contracts. And what I'm talking about here is when you just know that there is somewhere you're supposed to be. Maybe you visit that place on holiday and you know that you've been there before and you're supposed to be there again. Or there is a completely different way of life that you want to have. Perhaps you want to go and live off grid, and you know that that is meant for you. That is where we have something called a living location contract, and we knew we would grow the best in that particular place. So we can also have something called body contracts. And a body contract is when you decide that you're going to come into this life with a particular body, and this can include, learning disabilities, physical disabilities, mobility issues, whatever those issues are, health conditions, or even like talents and, being particularly good at something with the physical body. And there's a certain point that you decided before you were born that you were going to experience something different to how it's been. So some examples of this are people that have had disabilities and they go into sports, not necessarily the Paralympics, or people that maybe get to a certain point in their life and they want to lose a lot of weight. People that get to a certain point in their life and they feel as though they're in the wrong body. These are all pre-contracted experiences that we created. So you can also sense within yourself as time goes by that your life is not supposed to be as stressful or as tiring or as difficult as it has been for the first part of your life. And it may be that your physical circumstances are as they've always been. Maybe you've always worked really, really hard for a living and you don't see how that can change, and yet you just know it is supposed to change. It is supposed to. Very, very often, because we're living so much longer, we get through more than one lifetime within a physical lifespan. So if your average person lives to the age of about 90, some of us have nearly 3 lives within that lifespan. And so what you're doing is you're sensing that you're coming up to a point when your life is actually beginning again. And this is actually how it is for me. So you can also excuse me, have pre-life agreements where you agreed to share your energy for a period of time, which is usually a couple of years, with somebody that would really need you. They would really need your extra energy. So this could be a client or a loved one or a patient or a child. It could be anyone. But you will sense when that person's problems start to come into your world, you will sense, I've contracted to help this person. And even if you have lots of other children or lots of other friends or lots of other relatives, you know that their particular issues, and this is usually for like 3 years, it's usually for between 1 to 3 years, you know that most of your life force energy is going to get siphoned off to them. And you'll know that perhaps their problems are going to get worse, and you are in place to help them get through it for a short amount of linear time. So my experience was with my daughter when she was very sick. She's doing really well now. And other people I've seen, it's happened when somebody's mental health has got worse for a short period of time, or somebody breaks their leg, and it's like the person here knows this is going to get worse before it gets better and I'm going to be needed. And it's like, you know it because you pre-contracted it. And the last way that I'm going to talk to you about knowing your pre-life plan, it may well be that you know, somebody suggests that you do something, whether that is train as something, sell your house, whatever it is, and you just know you're not supposed to. Maybe you don't know why, but you're like, I won't go there, I won't do that. I would, but I know I'm not going to. And then just before whatever that thing is, you know, it could be a concert that you agreed to go to, but you know, I'm not going to go. You know, something happens and you were right, you weren't going to go because it was pre-contracted that you wouldn't go. So that can often happen when you would have been on a flight that crashed, or you would have been, you know, involved in something that you were not supposed to be involved in. And so from your perspective, you contracted to narrowly avoid that, because in the avoiding of it, you'll also learn something. So we also have something called teaching contracts. And this is where there are going to be certain things that you will teach the world and you will teach others. Now, this can be a child that has, you know, very, very difficult issues and models compassion or models bravery to others. It can also be that you know that you are a teacher and you just don't know what you're a teacher of, but as time goes by, you do find yourself teaching. So there will be a certain group of souls that you prior agreed to teach, and usually there are between 5 to 10 of these souls, and usually you've pre-agreed to be their teacher in prior lives. So your higher self, you do know what you're doing. And whenever you feel like your guides aren't helping you, you've got to take a moment to look at yourself and say to yourself, I wrote this life plan. I wrote this earthly soul contract. I do know what it is I planned to do. Maybe I don't know how I'm going to be able to pull that off. Maybe I don't know what will happen as a result of that, but you do know. And the silly thing is, when you actually admit that you do know what's right for you, and you trust that and you enact that very quickly, you'll usually hear your guides or get confirmation from your guides. If you want some help with this, I do offer readings with your guides, readings with your higher self. I offer psychic reports, very powerful psychic surgeries, and you can find all of those over at my website at www.sheelaghmaria.com/work-with-me. And if you enjoyed this, would you consider please liking and sharing? When we get to 1,000, we are going to be doing a mass card pull. For now, thank you so much and have a wonderful September wherever you are. Bye-bye for now.